I want to talk about how you guys even got in with the show in the first place, because I think the most, for me, when I listen to, actors talk about new shows and such, I like to hear about the auditioning process, because I feel like that's something that goes untalked about often. So I want to know what that was like for both of you.
Sure. Mine's long. So.
Okay. Mine was short. It was, I auditioned in Charleston. So I flew home to see my parents, and then went to the production office, and I was there like all day. And Jonas pulled me aside, and he's basically like, hey, so we don't want Netflix to say no. So we're going to do this all different types of ways so they can't say no. And that's when it was like, I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, it was basically like, I really connected with Jonas and his daughter, Lila, who is dead body. And
what episode is that? 3, 2, 1?
2 or 3, I think.
Just count it down.
Yeah. And then after that, I flew back to LA, and then he called me and he was like, what the fuck, where are you? Why aren't you here? We need you here. And so I immediately flew back, like packed up all my stuff. And it was pretty much like, signed, sealed, delivered. And so, but because it happened so fast, I was like, I'm going to get fired. Like, this is not real. Like, they've got the wrong girl for sure. Like, I think they're really confused. But I never got fired. And here we are. So that was my process. It was definitely the shortest, fastest audition process I've ever been through.
Yeah.
Ever.
And mine, I got the audition for John B. mid-February. And when an audition comes through as an actor, you get an email and it says the character name, what the character is supposed to be like, and then it gives you a little breakdown of the show, and then that's pretty much it. And the first time I got the audition, it was the most bland email I've ever got. It just said 4 friends on a treasure hunt, Netflix, and the character name was John B. So I'm like, this is the fucking Goonies. Like, we're reboot. And so I said no. I was like, I don't want to touch a piece of iconic cinema and destroy it. I was like, that's my worst nightmare, is doing a bad reboot. So I told my agent, I was like, nope, not doing it. He pushed me and was like, dude, you need to do it. So I said no. And then, obviously in LA, it's super expensive and, money goes quick. So very quickly after that, I was on unemployment, and the role of Topper came through. And I was like, I don't even care at this point. Like, at least I'm not one of the main, kids in the show. I can be like the stereotypical asshole on the outskirts. And so I read for it, and it was like a really shitty day. It was like I had a lot of family stuff going on. And I got a parking ticket as I was at the audition, forgot all my lines, like apologized to the casting director before I even read. And I walked out of there and I was just like, oh, okay, I'm for sure going to get dropped from my agent. So I grew up in Florida, and the casting and acting community in the Southeast is very, very small. So the casting director who actually booked me my first job ever on this really unique and one season VH1 series called Daytime Divas, which we won't talk about. She called me and was like, hey, I have this project called Outer Banks and they can't find their guy. Would you be interested in reading for it? And I was like, I don't really want to do it because I know it's a Goonies reboot. And I'm pretty sure I've butchered every relationship in this show because I just bombed the audition for Topper. And she's like, I've known Jonas my whole life. We're really good friends. I'll send you the first episode. Read it. I'll send you materials. And this is in April. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So she sends it and I read the pilot and I'm like, oh my God, like, this is not the Goonies. Like, I can't believe I screwed this up so bad. So I immediately called her back and I was like, yes, yeah, I definitely want to read for this. So that was on Wednesday. So she's like, we'll hear back by Friday if they're interested. It's going to be a quick turnaround because they're really starting to, ramp up production. So I read, and then I sent it in that night, and Friday came and I didn't hear anything. So I was like, okay, it's Easter weekend. I'm just going to go to brunch and drink a bunch of mimosas and drown my, sorrows away. And so I'm sitting at brunch with a bunch of friends. My agent calls me on a Sunday and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, happy Easter first and foremost. Right there, it's the Lord's Day. And then he's like, are you available? And I'm like, Tom, I'm unemployed. So yes. And he's like, I'll call you right back. And I'm like, this is either going to go one of two ways. Like, this is really not cool. And so I'm sitting at brunch with friends. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, you keep walking away. So he calls me and he's like, you're getting on a flight. And I'm like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, next week, whatever. He's like, tonight, 10:55, you're taking a red eye to Charleston. I'm sending you 19 pages of dialogue, the first 4 episodes. You need to get to the airport now. And it's like 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm in Pasadena, which is nowhere close to LAX. And so I just kind of looked at everybody around me and I'm like, I gotta go. Like, like, what's going on? And I'm like, apparently I'm going to Charleston. So I went to the airport, got on the plane. I'll never forget it. I was in 33B, which is the very last row of the plane, in a middle seat on a red eye. And I was reading the entire night all the way through. I got to the airport. My credit card payment had gone through on my debit card and it had overdrafted my account. So I couldn't even get an Uber from the airport to go to the collection office. So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, this is really bad. I'm in Charleston. Why are you in Charleston? And I'm like, it's a long story. I'm here for like maybe a job. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Probably not. But like, can I borrow $100? And she's like, just go do the right thing. And I was like, okay. So I went from the airport to the production office. I walked in. I was like so bummed because of everything that had just happened. I hadn't slept in literally 48 hours. And I walk in and somebody's sitting on the couch and I had like my hood on and a hat. And I was like, hey, I know this is probably the weirdest question you're ever going to be asked, but I just sat in the middle seat on a red eye. Can you walk on my back? And he was like, sure. Yeah. So she's walking on my back and she just says like, I probably should have told you this beforehand, but I'm Maddie. I'm playing Sarah Cameron. Like,
Wow.
Okay. And then at that moment, Josh, Jonas, and Shannon, the guys who created the show, they like walk out of the conference room and they see this happening. And they're like, okay, well,
this is my work.
We should probably do a chemistry read real quick. And I was like, oh, we're doing a chemistry read. All right, sweet. So Maddie and I did our read. Everything went great. Jonas kind of tells me about their idea for the show. And he's like, why don't you come back tomorrow? We'll go over the materials. The network test will be Wednesday. And I'm like, okay, so at least I have more than 4 hours to prepare for an audition this time. So I go back to the hotel or whatever. I come back to the production office the next day thinking, we're just going to go over materials. So I just come in like jeans and a pair of, like just a t-shirt, like not prepared for anything. And he walks out and he goes, surprise, we're doing a network test. And I'm like, oh, I'm not getting this job. Like, and the other dude who's reading for John B is like this drop dead gorgeous Australian dude who has a beautiful accent. And I'm like, this is a wrap. Like, I'm done. You guys can go ahead and book my flight. Like, it's been real. Thanks for flying me out. I'm still broke, but whatever. And so I got really frustrated at just like everything that had happened. So I like had a full flood, like a giant mental breakdown. And I was sitting out front of the production office, just kind of freaking out. And Jonas walked out and he happened to like see me kind of panicking. And he was like, this is your job. And I was like, I don't understand. He's like, this is your job. So go fucking get it. And I was like, all right. So we went in, we did the reads and all this stuff. So Rudy and I read together, me and another kid read together. And it was just like kind of this combination of doing a bunch of different stuff. And so then we get an Uber or we're leaving. And I had like $25 at this point in my bank account. So I looked back and I'm like, can you guys like give me an Uber or something back to the hotel? I don't have money and I'm trying to eat dinner. And this is just a bad situation. And I'm sorry. And Jonas just kind of laughed at me because I had nothing at this point. And so Rudy was like, I'll call an Uber. And so Rudy's sitting in the front seat. I'm sitting behind Rudy. And this other kid reading for John B is sitting next to me. And I see Rudy like on his phone. And we had lied to the Uber driver. We were like, yeah, we're here, for a Jeopardy taping. And we had a giant fool of ourselves. And Rudy's like on his phone. And I'm like, you good, man? You're really quiet up there. And this other kid is just kind of sitting there doing his own thing. And my phone rings and I didn't recognize the number. And I pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, it's Chase. I'm like, you got the fucking job, dude. Go get tan. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I just panicked. So I was like, oh shit. And I hung up the phone. And the kid next to me was like, did you get the job? And I was like, no, just my other stuff. And he's like, right. And then I just see Rudy go. And I was like,
yeah.
Back to the hotel, and like the kid went down the hall, and then Rudy and I like immediately ran to each other, and that's where it started.
That was exactly 1 year ago today, too.
Yeah.
Wow. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.